Hello again everyone, welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host Derailious, and today we're going to be going over the Diana V2 update in a little bit more detail, going over some of the factors and changes to the market that are likely to result, as well as some additional changes that actually look really good. Before we begin though, I just want to say please make sure to like and subscribe down below as it really helps out the channel a lot. Use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order. It really does help out the channel. Thank you so much. Without any further ado though, let's get started. First, there was a change made on the alpha yesterday. This is related to mayor elections. They've gotten rid of the hidden mayor elections and they were asking what people thought about it. Personally, I'm a huge fan of getting rid of the hidden elections. To me, a large part of what makes the election system interesting is that you're able to interact with the community at a larger level. Yes, your vote individually does matter to a degree, but if you're going for a larger goal, specifically like a certain mayor as mayor and then a combination with a minister, it's cool to have that combination come to fruition. That didn't end up always working with private elections. I understand, yes, in real life, elections are private, but Skyblock is not real life, and therefore I think it's fine to do something where the players are able to interact with one another in a way that's actually interesting and create strategies based on voting. Something I briefly wanted to talk about here is actually related to Chimera. I wanted to discuss the price a little bit. I'm not going to give you specific numbers in terms of the price of where Chimera will end up because it's impossible to guess at the moment, but I would not be that shocked if over the next few months we see some significant downward pressure on the price of Chimera. There are multiple reasons I believe this. The first and foremost is that A, a lot of people will be trying to run Diana now, and B, those people will be dropping more Chimera books than before. This is for a myriad of reasons. The first is that the actual drop rate of Chimera, if you look at the Inquiz, has been increased a little bit. Once again, it goes from 1% to 1.25%. That may not seem like a lot, but we're going to have a lot of magic find in this event. A small change like this at 400 or 500 or 600 magic find is over a percent difference, which is relatively significant in your drop rates. Number two, because the Inquisitors are elusive and we have the new tracking stat, players will be getting more Inquises than before. Players will now be able to invest into stuff that gets them more Inquisitors, which means even more Chimera books. And then finally, the last reason is because of the burrow changes. In general, it should be way more common for players to not just find Inquisitors, but also drop the books. Because of that, I imagine the price is going to fall. However, there is some other stuff that I want to mention here that will put some upward pressure, in my view, on the price. Notably, it's actually related to the Derailious blade. Before, the Derailious blade was just the number one thing to put Chimera on, period. Because it just flatly gave you so much bonus magic find. It was nuts. Now, the incentive, yeah, you're probably going to want it on your Derailious blade, but if you want it on a weapon, you're probably not going to use your Derailious blade in everyday activities. You're going to be using different swords, Slayer items, for example. If you're in, for example, M7, you're going to use it on your Hyperion if you're a mage. So on and so forth. There's other things that you can actually put Chimera on as a first, second, or third option. And I imagine that will create a situation in which maybe players aren't just like, alright, I'm going to put Chimera 5 on my Derailious blade and I'm not investing in Chimera anymore. There might be reasons for players to actually put Chimera on more than one item, whereas before, pretty much all the focus was on this singular item in the game. Obviously, I could be wrong about that. It could just be doom and gloom for the price of Chimera for the immediate future. But for now, I do think there is going to be some downward pressure, especially due to the changes with tracking and Inquises in general. People are going to be going after this event a ton. I would not be that shocked if whenever Diana appears for the next 6 months, really, she's going to be mayor pretty much every time that she's able to be. So definitely interested in seeing that happen on main. Price of Chimera is already down to 90 mil, I believe. Would not be that shocked if it fell another 15 or 20 mil. Something else I wanted to bring up balance-wise for this update is actually related to the Hephaestus anvil, and not really the anvil itself, just the sheer expense associated with some of these items, notably stuff like the Hephaestus relic, 3 Minos relics, as well as the Hephaestus anvil, which is crafted with a Zog anvil, braided griffin feathers, the enchanted gold blocks, enchanted ancient claws, and a ton of the mythos fragments. Players are going to need quite a few of these anvils in order to make all of the new pet items, many of which are extremely powerful, and some of which may even power creep completely different items. I've heard people say that Quick Claw might be cooked because of stuff like Hephaestus Relic, which just flatly increases all your pet stats by 50%. I would not be that shocked if Quick Claw needed some sort of buff or change or just upgrade path, because these new items are extremely powerful. On the other hand, though, because of the expense associated with these items, I would not be that shocked if the admins choose to do nothing about stuff like Quick Claw. They may just say, listen, these new things are ridiculously expensive. We want them to be the best. And it seems like that's the goal. For this last section here, I'm going to step into a little bit of controversy and talk about Sorrow. Frankly, I don't understand why Sorrow still has a Magic Find specifically on it, as it seems like the goal of the team recently has been trying to get rid of swaps wherever possible. Currently, it doesn't seem like Sorrow is going to not be meta for Magic Find in the new update. You're still going to want to use it. I don't think anyone's going to be using Mythos Armor. It doesn't make any logical sense for you to do so when Sorrow exists. Personally, I don't understand why they don't just change around Sorrow to be buffs against, for example, Mining Island mobs, giving them Magic Find against them, or whatever else reasonably the admins can think up. There's a lot of options there. In addition, they could give us some base Magic Find back in the form of buffing the Magic Find attribute, or just giving us Magic Find from other things. For example, maybe some low amount of bestiary milestones could give you some small amount of Magic Find. Not necessarily requiring you to get to like milestone 30, but milestone 10, milestone 12 could give you one extra Magic Find here or there to kind of make up the difference. I understand completely that the team wants to get rid of conditional Magic Find so they don't have to deal with swaps. Swaps fundamentally make the game a little bit harder to design around and build around. Makes sense that they would want to get rid of them, but they're kind of dragging their feet on stuff like Sorrow, and I don't really understand why. I get it. People have put money into this stuff. That's fine. Change it to be something related to mining islands where you get a ton of Magic Find there, and I don't think people are going to be too upset. At least then you have an incentive to be like, all right, I'm going to swap, but only on mining islands, when I'm going for my Scatha pet, or when I'm going for whatever other items that I want to get that involve Magic Find on a mining island. I just feel like the current situation where it's just you're incentivized to swap into Sorrow whenever you're doing anything doesn't really make a ton of sense, especially with many of the changes that they've already made with this update and many of the new additions that they've added alongside this update, which are seemingly focused on Magic Find. Wrapping up here, I am definitely a big fan of a lot of what's in Diana V2 and the updates surrounding it. I think that the removal of stuff like the Hidden Mayor system is great. I think many of the new additions are extremely solid. There are things to keep in mind, though, about the larger economy. This is going to be a relatively big one in terms of affecting the economy, with stuff like Chimera, Magic Find boosting items. Things like that are going to be all over the place over the coming months, but as long as you follow Derailious, I suppose, you'll be able to keep up to date with the news. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end, and look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.